It was a cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13. Winston Smith, his chin nuzzled into his breast in an effort to escape the vile wind, slipped quickly through the glass doors of Victory Mansions. At one end of the hallway, a poster had been tacked to the wall. It depicted simply of a face, a man with a heavy black mustache and ruggedly handsome features. Winston made for the stairs. It was no use trying to lift. The electric current was cut off during daylight hours. The flat was 7 flights up, and Winston, who was 39, had a varicose ulcer above his right ankle. He went slowly, resting several times on the way. On each landing, the poster with the face gazed from the wall. It's one of those pictures which are so contrived that the eyes follow you about when you move. Big Brother is watching you, the caption beneath it ran. Inside the flat, a fruity voice was reading out a list of figures which had something to do with the production of pig iron. Winston turned a switch, and the voice sank somewhat, though the words were still distinguishable. The voice came from a metal plaque, like a dulled mirror, which formed part of the surface of the wall. The instrument was called the telescreen. He moved over to the window, a small, frail figure, the meagerness of his body merely emphasized by the blue overalls, which were the uniform of the party, his skin roughened by coarse soap and blunt razor blades. Outside, the world looked cold. Down the street, little eddies of wind were whirling dust and torn paper into spirals. There seemed to be no color in anything except the posters that were plastered everywhere. There was one down from every commanding corner. Big Brother is watching you. Telescreen received and transmitted simultaneously. There was no way of knowing whether you were being watched at any given moment. It was even conceivable that they watched everybody all the time. Winston turned around abruptly. He well knew that even a bat can be deceiving. He had set his features in the expression of quiet optimism, which it is advisable to wear when facing a telescreen. He had sacrificed his lunch in the canteen, and was aware there was no food in the kitchen. He took down a bottle of colorless liquid, with a plain white label marked Victory Gin. It gave off a sickly, oily smell. Winston poured out nearly a teacupful. Nerved himself for a shock. And gulped it down like a dose of medicine. Instantly his face turned scarlet, and water ran out of his eyes. The stuff was like nitric acid. The next moment, however, the burning in his belly died down, and the world began to look more cheerful. He took a cigarette from a crumpled packet marked Victory Cigarettes, and incautiously held it upright, whereupon the tobacco fell out on the floor.
Monica. Liz, this is Monica. In Rolling Stone magazine this week, they published a list of the greatest 500 albums of all time. And I love lists like Let's just see if I'm even in the top 10. You know when I say, oh, you like some recording?
The next, he was more successful. He went back to the living room and sat down at a small table. He couldn't help but think of the drawer. From the drawer, he took out a thick, quarto-sized, blank book. A pen holder, and a bottle of ink. For some reason, the telescreen was in an unusual position. Instead of being placed where it could command the whole room, it was on the wall opposite the window. There was a shallow alcove in which Winston was now sitting. By sitting in the alcove, Winston was able to remain outside of the range of the telescreen, so far as sight went. It was partly the unusual geography of the room that had suggested the thing that he was about to do, but it had also been suggested to him by the book. The thing he was about to do was open a diary. This was not illegal, but if detected, it was certain that it would be punishable by death. Winston fitted a nib into the pen holder and sucked it to get the grease off. He then dipped it into the ink. A tremor had gone through his bowels. He was not used to writing by hand, and to mark the paper was a decisive act. In small, clumsy letters, he wrote,